Hey, good day, guys. As you know, I'm not here today, but I still have to go over some things. I'm going to review over the Civil War. All right, let's get started. So, the Civil War. Today we're talking about the Civil War, the key battles, documents, and events that happened throughout the Civil War. As we start that, I kind of want to see if you guys can fill this out on your own. All right, so there are two different sides in the Civil War, the North and the South. I want you to tell me what they're called, who are the presidents of each side, and who is the military leader from each side. Give you a couple seconds to figure it out. Okay. So let's kind of quickly go over it. In the North, they are called the Union. They wear, as you can tell, they all wear blue. They're a little more fancier. Their flag is the typical flag that we see, like the United States. Their president is Abraham Lincoln, and their military leader is Ulysses S. Grant. Now, for the South is different. The South, they are the Confederate. They wear, as you can tell, they wear all gray, and their flag is different. They have as you can tell, they have an X, and all those stars represent the states that seceded from the Union. Their president is Jefferson Davis, and their general is Robert E. Lee. So I took the liberty of filling this out already. Like I said, the Union, Confederate, presidents Abraham Lincoln, South Jefferson Davis, military leader Ulysses Grant, and for the South, it's Robert E. Lee. So to recap a bit, the election of Abraham Lincoln happened in 1860. A lot of the South did not like that. By 1861, many started to secede. South Carolina, the one that we always figured had always had a problem with things, they're the first to lead the way of leaving. Remember, they're mostly about states' rights, and eventually, what ends up happening, the first shots are fired at Fort Sumter. Let's look at Fort Sumter. So Fort Sumter, the first shots fired. It's a building and it's surrounded, and the North is there, and the South automatically attacks it and take over. They win that one. All right, and then let's look at the next battle. The Battle of Antietam happens in Maryland. That is the South. So it's considered the bloodiest day, not the bloodiest battle, but the bloodiest day of the Civil War. More than soldiers lost their lives in the Revolution, so we see a lot of deaths here. So after the Battle of Antietam, a lot of things happen, and one of them is the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation is the document that says that slaves are considered free. So we abolish slavery in the South, right? Eventually, this turns into what we now know as the 13th Amendment, right? Where slavery is no longer exists, it's abolished, right? So this document is pretty important for that matter. Okay, this next slide we see is the next actual battle, but it's called the Siege of Vicksburg. Right, this is very important because this battle right here is very crucial. This divides the South, divides the South by the Mississippi River. Remember, the North needs to find a way to beat the South. One of the best ways to do it is using the Mississippi River. Whoever gains control of the Mississippi River gains control of the momentum and control of the war. So the North is very, very good at using the Mississippi River and going around and capturing Vicksburg. Right. So let me show you in the next slide what I mean by that. Okay, so as you can tell by the star, that is Vicksburg. So by the star, that is Vicksburg. So what does the North have to do? They decide to do something that's pretty simple. I'm gonna use my pen right here. They decide their plan is to go through the Mississippi River, and yes, they are being attacked right here. But they still move on, and they go around it, and they surround Vicksburg from this side, and this side. When they surround it, they finally take Vicksburg over. All right, that's part of a bigger plan that later on was going to be known, or I'll just show you right now in a little bit. That is part of the new strategy called the Anaconda Plan. Sorry. Yeah, the Anaconda Plan, all right? So, the main thing about the Anaconda Plan was that we have to close, as you can tell, like Anaconda, we have to close the rest of the ports. So, one more time, as you can tell right here, we're closing over here. That means that nobody could go out. And eventually, we go around and we go down through the Mississippi and we cut it in half. The reason we're doing this is if we cut it in half, the South, it would be easier to take control of. So we want this whole area, we cut it in half, we control this whole area, and then this area will be left on its own, and it's going to have a hard time doing that. So this is why we do the Anaconda Plan, and that is part of the Vicksburg, the siege of Vicksburg. It was a part of a larger plan. All right, so the northern blockades of the South, and they try to capture it that way. Okay. Next one, the next battle is the Battle of Gettysburg. Now this one is pretty important. This is actually the turning point of the war. We should know what the turning point is by this time. All right, if you don't know it, it's that it changed, like some kids like to say, the climax. It changes the war. The South is no longer capable of fighting back, and now the North is going to eventually win. All right, so this is the turning point of the war. But one other thing that we get out of the Battle of Gettysburg is a couple days later, we have the Gettysburg Address. This document is pretty important with that. Gettysburg Address. It starts off with 7 years ago. This is one of Lincoln's most famous speech. Lincoln dedicated the cemetery to the fallen soldiers of Gettysburg, and it said that all enslaved people in the Confederate States would be free. Okay, this is what he's basically saying in the battle, the Gettysburg Address. And then finally, the war ends. I know that there is a lot more battles that go on, but there's only about 3 battles that you guys should know. And those are the ones that I just showed you. Fort Sumter, Vicksburg, Gettysburg, and eventually this one. This is not a battle, but it's where it all ends. All right? It's like they're a treaty to say. And it ends in the Appomattox courthouse in Virginia. So remember, where does it end? Virginia? What region? All right, so it ends there. So as you can tell from the drawing, this right here is Robert E. Lee, and this right here on the other side is Ulysses S. Grant. Right, they're there. They both go to the courthouse, and that's where the war ends, at the Appomattox courthouse. Okay. So when the war ends, if you look at the data, I remember telling you this, the war ends in April 9th, 1865. Now let's look at the next slide. What happens? April 14th, 1865. So, assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He was assassinated at the end of the Civil War. He was killed, and remember, he was killed by John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor at the time. Jumps off the balcony, breaks his ankle at the moment. So, the President of the United States is assassinated, and from here on out, we have to deal with what's going to happen after the Civil War. All right, that is all through the Civil War for right now. When we get back, I will talk to you about Reconstruction.